Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Friday, February 10th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Indiana game is in 204 days. The game against Michigan in 288 days. One game that's going to be happening in Ohio Stadium before either of those is the Ohio State spring game. Tickets for that game will go on sale Friday morning, this morning, 10 a.m. General admission prices, $7. There are some reserved seats in the fancy seat back area for $15 and $30. So though, if you want to live the high life for the spring game, there are your options. Those will be on sale again, 10 a.m. on Friday at ohiostatebuckeyes.com. All right, so that's in the future, the 2023 season in the future. But we're going to be talking about way further into the future today. We're going to be talking about three players that are names to know right now in the 2026 recruiting class. These are guys who are high school freshmen right now, but who are guys who are talented enough and, big enough already that they are legitimate Ohio State targets already, despite the fact that they were in literally middle school this time last year. So three pretty significant names. I'm going to be talking about those three guys with another pretty significant name. He is Mark Givler. He writes for BuckeyeHuddle.com. He does the Skull Session column every week. He also works with Alex Gleitman on that new daily feature that we do, Eyes on the Trail. That is a fantastic daily feature now at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Mark, let's start with the biggest of the three names, or at least the most recognizable of the three names we're going to be talking about. That is Chris Henry Jr., of course, the son of the late Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Chris Henry, you look at Chris Henry Jr. and you're like, oh yeah, I don't need to check the name tag. I know whose kid that is. That is definitely Chris Henry's kid. And the talent there, boy, the talent there, you can go, yeah, that also makes me know that is Chris Henry's kid.
Yeah, he's impressive. He's got the size. His dad was kind of a tall, lanky guy, and Chris Jr.'s the same way. He's great body control, hands, and it's going to be fascinating to kind of watch him as he fills out these next couple of years of high school and gets into college. He's going to be one of those just big physical presence type of guy. He's going to be really hard to defend. Obviously was offered super early, was offered over the summer, coming off an unbelievable camp performance that he had where he was the best receiver at the camp that day. It was amazing to watch him do that. And so they've kept kind of the foot on the gas there, and that relationship continues to grow, and transferred from West Claremont to Withrow, which is more in like the city league, I guess, for lack of a better word, on in Cincinnati. They've got a couple other prospects there as well, so we'll be going against some top guys in practice every day. They've got some good defensive backs over there, so that'll be another interesting thing to watch, I guess, with him, how that adjustment goes. But probably a little step up for him in practice, and probably a little step up for him in some of the competition they play. But yeah, he's tracking like one of the best guys in the state for sure.
And, with a wide receiver, you sort of assume, yeah, okay, Brian Hartline's going to have Ohio State right at the heart of this race, especially for a kid who is, he's playing in Ohio now and, ties to the state and all that kind of stuff. And I recognize, I'm just going to say up front, I know, Mark, that this is a stupid question because he is literally still a high school freshman. But, where do you have a sense for where Ohio State stands right now other than, hey, it's way too early? That's a stupid question.
Well, it is early, but no, I think Ohio State's in a great spot already. They obviously, again, that offer happened in person at camp. So this wasn't some just, this is a big name offer, some splash thing. We're going to make a headline and just offer the kid, call his coach and offer him or something. They evaluated him. Brian Hartline looked at him very closely, offered him. I think between the relationship with Hartline that's developing, kind of what that offer meant to him so early, and just the general, his circumstances of, losing his father. I know Pac-Man Jones has actually been kind of a big figure for him, and just kind of guiding him through this. But I think maybe staying close to home could be a factor here. I don't know that he's going to want to go out to California or Texas or Florida or something like that. I think Ohio State's geography is actually going to help them here, despite the idea that, yes, he does have resources. He's not someone who's necessarily going to be all about the NIL money. There's a little bit of Marvin Harrison Jr. there in terms of his background and everything else. So I think there's some interesting factors here that help Ohio State. But like I said, geography and just the way they've gone about recruiting him so far, I think are two things that will ultimately help them as this plays out here in the next maybe 2 years.
Yeah, you don't have to sell theory in terms of we can take a extremely talented son of a former NFL extremely productive wide receiver and turn him into a pretty productive college wide receiver and probably pretty high NFL draft pick. You have that working out in practice right now at Ohio State, literally in football practice as well. But yeah, so that should be an interesting one to watch. Another interesting one to watch in state. You will sometimes see guys at the wide receiver position, the running back position, who are early development, easier places to get on the field early in your career, easier positions maybe to evaluate and to sort of get a sense for what a guy is going to be at the next level. Offensive line is not one of those positions. So it was when you wrote this week about Maxwell Riley. He's a 6'5", 265 offensive lineman. I think he plays tackle at Avon Lake up near Cleveland. That was the old Mike DeAndrea High School. Started as a true freshman. Ohio State hasn't offered yet, but it seems like maybe it's trending in that direction, or at least they are very, very interested in Maxwell Riley. For someone to be getting that kind of attention, again, as a freshman in high school, boy, that feels like that is a pretty significant thing.
Yeah, so he started at left tackle this year for Avon Lake. He's very athletic, and he's got a great build already at 6'5", 265, so he's not a guy who you're worried about getting too big or dropping weight. He's a guy you can kind of build on and can slowly kind of put on the weight he's going to need to put on. And so he's got a great build to him already. He's very light on his feet, very athletic. He was all area this year as a freshman. So he wasn't just out there playing because he was big. He was actually very productive, very good for them. And they don't do this with a lot of freshmen. I mean, they went up to the school in the winter. He's already talked to Justin Fry and Keenan Bailey, so he's talked to two. He's had contact with like Ed Terwilliger and some of the support staff guys, but he's also been talking to actual two of the main assistant coaches on the offense. So they're not doing this for the hell of it. There's a lot of resources already being put in there. He's not at a school. I mean, Avon Lake's produced kids. It's not a bad program, but it's not a school that currently has like 5 or 6 other kids they're recruiting. So they went there specifically for him on that visit to stop at the school. So there's a lot of things here that you look at and you say, well, this is very serious on Ohio State's end, or they wouldn't be doing some of these things. So, will he be offered in the next couple months? I don't know. I would imagine they're going to want him to camp in June. And at that point, I think you could see an offer. Even if they would get maybe a little excited about him and fire the offer off this spring, I'm sure they are going to want to work with him at camp at some point here soon when they're able to. So that'll be something for us to watch in June. But he's come down. He's been invited to spring practices, so he's allowed to come down and visit and do that in the spring, and he's going to do that. And again, this is a guy that they've even though they haven't offered him yet, and probably rightfully so as a freshman, and it take a little longer to develop on the offensive line. This is a guy they're putting a lot of energy into already, more so than. There aren't a lot of freshman offensive linemen in Ohio they've put a lot of this kind of effort into. I think he's better than Blake Miller was as a freshman, and Blake Miller started as a freshman at Clemson. This year came out of Northeast Ohio. So this is a kid with a lot of potential.
Yeah, definitely one to watch. Definitely one we will be keeping an eye on at camp in June when those high school camps happen at Ohio State. Those are always, you end up seeing and learning, seeing a lot of kids all at once. You get to see them going head to head in a lot of cases, during the one-on-one periods and all that. So that will be a lot of fun to get to see him on the field in June. One more guy for the 2026 class. This is someone who does already have an offer. He is an out-of-state. He is a 2026 quarterback out of Georgia named Julian Lewis. He already has, you look at his resume, leading his team to the state championship and putting up video game numbers in the state championship against a team that had some really, really good talent in Georgia, which is a very, very good, high school football state. I mean, boy, oh boy, this feels like one of those potentially sky is the limit kind of things if he keeps kind of progressing and developing over the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hate saying this. It puts labels on guys, but I mean, he's kind of the next big thing in Georgia right now. He's got huge offers. His offer list is, I think, approaching the 20s, if not into the 20s already. There's Alabama, Florida, Georgia, LSU, Michigan, Oregon, Texas, USC, Ohio State. It's an unbelievable offer list for a freshman. He threw for over 4,000 yards last year, 48 touchdowns, led his team to a state championship game. They lost to Mill Creek and Caleb Downs, but he had 531 yards in that game. You watch the film. He's pretty athletic. He's a pass first kid, but he's already pretty athletic. And he's only a baby. He's gonna get faster. He's gonna get more athletic even. And but just the way he throws the ball is so accurate. There's such great anticipation on a lot of his throws. It's crazy to think that a kid could do that as a freshman in big time Georgia football. It's funny. Carrollton, I had to look it up. It's kind of out there, close to the Alabama border. But you start to play those big school teams from the Atlanta area. It's some of the best high school football in the country. So he's already proven himself against very good competition, and he's interesting. I mean, there's no doubt he was the Max Preps freshman of the year nationally in the country. So this is one of those next. Everyone's always looking for the next big thing, and this kid's one of them. And gosh, what a class! Georgia's got him and Tyler Atkinson on defense, the freshman defensive end who earned an offer to Ohio State's camp last year, coming out of his 8th year in his freshman year. They're in the same class in Georgia, so that's going to be something to watch as Ohio State's recruiting both of those guys.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk about Tyler Atkinson a little bit, because I was not planning on talking about him, but let's talk about him a little bit, because we saw him at camp last year, and he was another one where this is a guy who was at that point had not yet started taking high school classes. He was still in the summer between his middle school and his freshman year of high school year, and you saw him out there working with Larry Johnson, and he's picking stuff up quickly, and he's taking coaching, and he's super athletic, and it was just like, oh boy, like it. Sometimes you look and at the hyped kids, and you kind of go, yeah, maybe I can. This was one where it's like, oh yeah, no, I see that right there for sure. I mean, he is, he has the opportunity, and again, this is a long way away. These are guys who, the current true freshman on Ohio State's team could already be declaring for the NFL draft before this guy shows up on campus. So we're still, we're still way in the future here. But boy, that feels like another one of those just real sky is the limit kind of guys. And that's a pass rusher that, boy, you have seen at Ohio State what that kind of pass rusher can do for your whole defense. And boy, that would be a very big get for whatever Ohio State's coaching staff looks like in 2026.
Yeah, he's very explosive. Again, another kid who produced at a very high level as a freshman, in playing against tremendous competition. My only question with him, because some of these other guys that we've talked about, we know, even though they're very young, we know what they are. We know, Chris Henry Jr. is a receiver. We know Maxwell Riley is an offensive lineman, and we know Julian Lewis is a quarterback. Atkinson's kind of in that tweener range right now of, okay, is he like a Sam? Is he a weak side end? Or now if you're Ohio State, you're sitting here thinking, well, he's a jack. We just introduced this position in the last 12 months under Jim Knowles, and so there's some interesting timing there for Ohio State, which I think makes sense, because right now I think he is more of that than he is kind of your Chase Young. He's not 6'5", 6'6" yet. I mean, who knows? Maybe in 2 years, but he does look like one of more of those small, like a Nolan Smith from Georgia, or someone like that, or a Noah Spence that Ohio State had a few years ago. More of that type of body at this point, but tremendous pass rusher, super athletic, super explosive kid, and that's going to be probably quite a national recruiting battle the next couple of years. But back to quickly, I wanted to mention is Julian Lewis is visiting Ohio State this spring. He did tell me this week, so I didn't want to. We talked about him. I'm like, I should probably mention that that he is actually going to visit. This is some rando that they offered from Georgia. So Corey Dennis has been talking to him, and he will be on campus in the spring. He's been invited up, and he told me this week he's gonna set something up to get up here. So, and he's the only freshman quarterback. He's the only 2026 quarterback that has an Ohio State offer right now.
Well, yeah. So now you've got 4 names to watch for 2026. And while you're talking, I looked it up. I couldn't remember when the Ohio State-Georgia series was. And it is not necessarily, unless these guys are fifth-year players, they would not be part of that Ohio State-Georgia series because that's in 2030 and 2031. 2027 and 2028 is when Ohio State plays Alabama. So these guys could end up on one side of that series or another. But go ahead and just mark this one down. And when Ohio State is playing Alabama in 2027, and you can look back and say, I remember way back in 2023, remember all the way back then when Mark and Tom were talking about these guys, and look, now they're 4 of the biggest stars in college football. It's really a possibility. So we will see how that all shakes out, but we'll have a whole bunch of shows between now and then to talk about all this stuff and a bunch of other stuff, and plenty of great stuff to talk about as well at BuckeyeHuddle.com. As I mentioned, Mark and Alex are now doing that daily recruiting article column. Really good, really good information. Lots of names to know, current stuff, where things stand with guys who are going to be signing in December, and where things stand with guys who are going to be signing, sometime in the middle of the next presidential administration. So a little bit of everything for everyone there at BuckeyeHuddle.com, as well as all the team coverage and X's and O's coverage and fun community stuff and videos and podcasts and all that great stuff, all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.